to a week 15 edition of the Kamasutra Show. It is called the Kamasutra Show because we will be going position by position, a la Mike Zimmer, through every viable play on Sunday's main slate. I, of course, am Adam Levitan, as always, joined by the king of all hippies, Andrew Wiggins, joined by the big dog, Evan Silva, for yet another big dog slate. Evan, what's going on?
What's up? Big weekend coming up for Wiggins. We got to try to steer him in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Take home that, is it $2.5 million?
Yes, you're staring at
ridiculous, dude.
You're staring at the man who has a 1 in 200 chance on paper of winning $2.5 million. However, since we all know Wiggins, it's more like, I would say, a 1 in 130, 1 in 120 chance, something like that, of winning $2.5 million. Wiggins, what's going on?
Yeah, I'd say 1 in 100. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
But if you remember, I called my shot last week. It was the Taylor Swift song dad narrative. So all you aspiring players out there, just buzz your head, start listening to T Swift, and you too can potentially win $2.5 million.
Yeah, a lot of action, even for those of us that are not in the live final. 1,500 on DraftKings is a really, really big tournament. The 250 on FanDuel is one of my favorite tournaments every year. They run an incredible amount of satellites on FanDuel into that 250. You get a lot of soft action for a 250 on FanDuel. I think they call it their fan championship. So yeah, a lot of good action this week for sure. Before we get into today's show, I want to remind everybody the NBA returns on Tuesday. Yes, that's right. Tuesday, the NBA is back. We will be covering every single NBA slate with the intensity we cover each Sunday slate, i.e. projections, live shows. Live shows will be 4 days a week. Projections will be every day, updating through lock analysis from Drew, Wiggins, Leone, Gallagher. So if you haven't checked out NBA yet, be sure to hop onto the site, check out what we have going on there. All right. Story of the slate is going to be the big dog and what to do with him, as always. But let's start at the quarterback position, because I think the story of the quarterback position is Jalen Hurts. And Evan and I discussed it a little bit on Tuesday. Jalen Hurts rushing the ball 18 times. 11 of those were designed runs. And you can see what the Eagles did. They were like, hey, we're just going to design some runs for Jalen. 11 designed runs is ridiculous. If he gets 11 designed runs again and Arizona cannot handle them, 5,900 and 6,900, his prices are going to look laughable. However, Arizona now has a week of tape on Jalen Hurts in the NFL. I think they have some plan of what the Eagles are going to do, and I would assume, dare Jalen Hurts to beat them with his arm. So, Evan, where are you at after digesting a week of Jalen Hurts action heading into the Arizona game?
Well, I do think that we need to keep, his fantasy production from last week in proper, sort of context, because he did not do it as a passer, and he did it almost strictly as a runner. He, because he went over 100 rushing yards, he hit the bonus on DraftKings, and that's highly unlikely to happen again. I mean, even getting to 18 rushing attempts, like Lamar Jackson rarely gets to 18 rushing attempts in an individual game. And as a passer, he was, very mediocre. With that said, the more that the week has progressed, I really like the game environment at Arizona. You don't have to worry about the weather at all. I think that Kyler and Hopkins are set up for a smash spot of their own. The Eagles secondary became decimated really all in 1 week. I mean, they lost multiple guys to injured reserve, starting starters in the secondary to injured reserve. Darius Slay suffered a concussion. I don't know what his status is, but he's been getting burnt to a crisp lately. You might actually kind of want him out there more than, at this point. I mean, I think Hopkins should burn him up. I think that Kirk is in a good spot on Arizona's side as well. So I don't know. I'm still expecting a relatively mediocre passing performance from Jalen Hurts, but man, I like the game and the way that it's starting to set up. I think I like the over on 49 as well, Eagles Cardinals.
It's a tough projection on Hurts because we do have a 1-game sample. And so, it's hard to get our arms around exactly how Hurts is going to fare as a runner. I think, as Evan said, there's almost certainly going to be regression. The question is how much. His price came up, Wiggins, but not to a point where it's not manageable. But he is pretty close to Kyler. He's reasonably close to Lamar. I mean, it's not like you're getting a huge discount like you were last week. You won the qualifier with Hurts last week. How are you feeling on him this week?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, he's gone up $800, and we've seen Kyler Murray's price go down and down. So, when you're talking about that game, I'm wondering, do you just find the $1,100 and get up to Kyler? And, we've got a bunch of value out there right now with Michael Thomas out. You've got all the receivers from New Orleans. There's some cheap tight ends you can play. I think there are a bunch of running backs you can consider. Some of them are on the cheaper end. So, money's kind of there to be taken. So I don't know, man. My initial instinct is Lamar's probably the best play. The way I have it ranked for top plays right now is Lamar, Kyler, Hurts. And then, Mahomes is right there too. So I think all those guys are very good plays. And then maybe a bit of a drop off to get down to Deshaun Watson. I don't think I'd be considering him in cash, but maybe a pretty good tournament pivot. So yeah, I wish I had a stronger lean here, but I think they're all pretty close plays. They're all priced pretty appropriately. And it's just tough to say on Hurts with only one game. You think that, with a little bit of tape, they'll do a better job to stop him from running.
Yeah, especially the designed runs. I think they can handle Kyler's. We've talked about, Evan, how the pass game has been kind of broken, but I like what you're saying here about buying a chance to buy low on the Cardinals pass game. So I certainly like that. Kyler's definitely in the mix for me, along with Hurts, Lamar, and Mahomes. Let's talk about Lamar.
In that game, Arizona and Philadelphia actually have also been very vulnerable to quarterback runs.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Kyler and Jalen Hurts, both dual threats. And, Jalen Hurts obviously coming off the monster rushing game, and Kyler Murray coming off a game where he ran 13 times. So just a lot of boxes are being checked, I think, in that game for offensive success, maybe on both sides.
Yeah, 13 rush attempts for Kyler last week, way more aggressive, and maybe not uncoincidentally, he was not on the injury report last week with the shoulder, not on the injury report once again with the shoulder, expecting to be aggressive with his legs against the Eagles on Sunday. Lamar is on a short week off of the poop game, off of the most outrageous game. I'm a little worried about a hangover. I'm a little worried about Jacksonville not being able to mount Lamar into more than, say, 20 pass attempts or something like that. But still, with Minshew back, maybe Jaguars can generate something and force Lamar to be a little bit more aggressive. But you can see Lamar turning up with his legs lately. He's at 51 or more rushing yards in 6 straight games. So my first instinct, kind of like Wiggins, was Lamar is the best. He's also the most expensive of these guys other than Mahomes that we've talked about. What do you think about this spot for Lamar, Evan?
I love it. John Harbaugh on Thursday and Friday, I think, expressed optimism that they are going to be able to activate Marquise Brown and Miles Boykin off of the COVID list. Mark Andrews is in an absolute eruption spot against Jacksonville, which is built to get crushed by tight ends and has been getting crushed by tight ends. And Mark Andrews' usage is back up. Big air yard share for him. I think that this. I think that there is some reason to expect the Jaguars to stay more competitive than expected, especially early in the game, because the Ravens are coming off of that, back and forth, wild ass, awesome game, 47-42, on a short week. And, there might be some room for letdown. I actually took the Jaguars to cover 13.5 early in the week. I think it moved to 12.5, and now it's back to 13. I think that they are likelier to play better with Minshew, and I think that G.J. Shark might be in a good spot. I know we've thought that a couple times this year, and it has never happened. Mm-hmm. But I think that I think that if the Jaguars just keep it competitive for 2 or 3 quarters, then I think that these Ravens can come out the other side with a lot of production.
Yeah, I think, Lamar's rushing is just, that's the thing about Hurts and Kyler and Lamar on this slate. We have the dual threat guys on this slate that are starting so far ahead from the straight passing guys, like, say, a Tannehill or a Brady or a Goff or a Rivers or someone like that. Like, those guys are starting so far behind the rushing guys on this slate. We've been talking about quarterbacks for more than 10 minutes already, Wiggins. We haven't even mentioned Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure how we can do that. He's going to throw the ball at least 35 times in this spot. It's really hard to see him not. They have almost completely abandoned the run, and they're just like, screw it, man. We're just going to throw Patrick Mahomes every time. That includes getting CEH on the field a lot more, who I would say is their best pass catching back by a wide margin. Why have we gone this long without talking about Patrick Mahomes, Wiggins?
Well, I think he might actually be the most owned quarterback in tournaments. I didn't think that a few hours ago, but once Michael Thomas got ruled out, you got all these cheap bringbacks, and now you can afford him pretty easily. You compare him. You could even play him with Kelsey and Mahomes if you want to go with a bunch of cheap Saints coming back. So it's also the last game on the slate. I just think everyone's going to gravitate to that game. So I'm not sure I'm looking at him in cash. I mean, look, you want to try and poke some holes in him. And I think he's a great play, but I'm just going to tell you reasons why maybe you don't play him in tournaments. It's the lowest team total we've seen for them all year by a decent amount. It's 27.5. I think last week was like 29.5, but usually they're 32, 33. Their offensive line is in shambles right now, and Evan can talk more about that. And yeah, it's just a tough matchup. So you can see past to maybe him not going completely nuclear, but man, he's been so good. It's Mahomes.
Yeah, the Saints defense last week was surprisingly bad against the Eagles. How do you think the Saints defense matches up with the Chiefs and Mahomes here, Evan?
Yeah, I think what Andrew said with the offensive tackle situation for Kansas City is that they're without their stud pass protecting right tackle Mitchell Schwartz. He's on IR. His backup Mike Remmers is listed as doubtful, and then their left tackle. So I mean they're down to their third string right tackle, and then their left tackle Eric Fisher is listed as questionable, I believe, with a back injury. Which I mean, doing a podcast with Ross Tucker for a really long time, like he would always be like, "Yo, dude has a back injury, bad news," and he was right like 9 times out of 10. So that's a little bit scary for Eric Fisher. And then the Saints are a top 5 pass rush team. I know that they didn't get it going at all last week against Philadelphia, but on the season they're top 5 in quarterback sack rate and quarterback hit rate. Marcus Davenport and Trey Hendrickson and Cameron Jordan. I mean, they, Sheldon Rankins, like they are loaded up front defensively. And if they can get, pressure with their front 4 and then drop dudes back into coverage and, maybe, I think that they can definitely cause some problems for the Chiefs offense. With that said, that's like the glass half empty narrative. And I mean, I'm all over the Chiefs to absolutely smash here. I mean, I think that they win this game by a touchdown. It's a 3-point spread. We talked about it on the Tuesday show. It was at 2.5 at that point. I think the Chiefs take care of business. I think they can kind of like impose their will, assuming that they can circumvent these problems at offensive tackle, that Eric Fisher winds up fine, and they can have a tight end help out their right tackle. And, I think that Tyreek Hill can run laps around Marshawn Lattimore, and no one has stopped Travis Kelce all season.
Yeah. I want to save the Breeze and Saints talk for when we get to Traquan and Manny Sanders and Kamara and Jared Cook, but I do want to talk about Breeze. But yeah, I think those 4 are pretty clearly above at the quarterback position for me: Mahomes, Lamar, Kyler, and Hurts. There is a Russ Wilson on this slate, though. It's been so long since I felt it. The season's been so long that it feels like we were like smashing the Russ button like not that long ago, but it's been like a month of bad play, maybe more, from Russell Wilson. So he's projecting not that well against a Washington defense, which we know can really mess things up for teams with one of the best passers. They've invested so much draft capital, just like the 49ers did on their way to the Super Bowl. Washington's invested so much draft capital in the hopes of one day turning this franchise around. So it's not the best possible spot for Russ by any means. That doesn't mean that he can't find a way to be the QB1 on the week. What do you think about how Russ is projecting versus his ceiling, Wiggins?
Well, I don't think anyone's going to play him at all. I mean, for whatever reason, Russ hasn't caught that much ownership throughout the course of the season. He's pretty low owned again last week. I mean, he could be like 1%. It's a tough spot. I'm not really looking at him, but when you know what he's been able to do at times, and if you pair him with DK, who also is going to be like 0% owned, I mean, they're just going to get completely ignored on this slate. So, I mean, I'm more in on the Washington defense, I think, as a play than playing them. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at like some of these bigger tournaments and you're trying to get unique, and you could bring it back with McLaurin, like it's an interesting angle for sure.
Do you have any idea what's wrong with Russ right now, Evan? And do you think this is a spot where he can get right?
Yeah, I mean, they're just not getting production from any of their complementary receivers at this point. They have made more of a commitment to running the football. Their defense has played well, are a lot better recently, ever since they acquired Carlos Dunlap and they got back Shaq Griffin, their top cornerback. So they're just a team that has evolved over the course of the season. And I mean, it's also something that has happened like 3 years in a row. It's where their defense opens up playing really poorly. Russ is forced into to be a little bit more aggressive. Russ is, typically highly, highly efficient. The defense sort of figures it out over the course of the year. And, we're seeing that happen again. And Russ kind of fades into like a mediocre fantasy quarterback.